Time for the deep dive. Back on SportsBit, Pauly and Teddy. Huge news over the weekend. 6 Notre Dame football players arrested. They kick starting safety Max Redfield off the team, senior All-American candidate, and also senior cornerback Devin Butler suspended indefinitely, and 4 other players where was Brian Kelly still going to decide what to do as more information comes in. I can't believe Butler is only suspended indefinitely. According to the cop, he hit him and body slammed him.
What do you want him to do? I mean, suspended indefinitely. That's not saying suspended forever. That's saying let's see what the facts are in this situation, and until that time, you're suspended indefinitely. I mean, the key loss here is Redfield. You know, where we're talking about a guy who, as you mentioned, a senior All-American candidate. He missed the Fiesta Bowl versus Ohio State, also a disciplinary issue. And it's worth noting the Buckeyes scored 44 points in that game, gained 500 yards, and had more than 200 on the ground and through the air. So that's the key loss here for Notre Dame. Let me get to the Brian Kelly quote. Quote, "During the past 24 hours, I've met with each of the members of our team involved in the 2 incidents that occurred over the weekend, reviewed the evidence available to me, and consulted with others involved in the leadership of our team and the university. The process has only served to deepen my disappointment in the poor decisions made by these young men. Their conduct fell far short of what we expect from those who represent our football team and this great university." So, let me just read one more part. The other individuals, while not being separated from the team, will be subject to disciplinary measures internal to the football program. In making these announcements, it is important to stress that all the players involved in these 2 incidents remain subject to the justice system and university discipline, and those processes could yet impact their standing with the university and the team. So, we're talking about a senior who's going to be replaced by a freshman, Devin Studstill, who's now going to be an All-American candidate at safety, and now we have a freshman at safety. And his backup is a freshman in Jalen Elliott. So, what's Texas going to do in the opener? Well, they're going to spread the field and throw. A new offensive coordinator, Sterling Gilbert, is of the spread offense, the spread offense mentality. Freshman quarterback Shane Buechele also looking to be a guy who's going to chuck the ball around the field. So this is an issue for Notre Dame defensively. And as you talked about in the intro a little bit, Pauly, the betting markets have already started to pay attention.
It's lying down to 3.5. I'm still surprised. Kelly's going to play both quarterbacks. Notre Dame was a top 10 team. Charlie Strong's on the hot seat. I know these are a ton of issues to deal with, but still it feels short even with all these problems with Notre Dame because Texas has stunk lately. And we'll see early on. Now, can they figure it out later in the season? I still expect them to struggle early on with the new offense because the offense has been horrible at Texas the last couple of years, especially the quarterback.
And that's the whole thing. Yeah, everyone starts talking about, new offensive coordinator, and they expect miracles from day one. These 2 teams played last year,
right,
in week 1. It was a complete mismatch.
Yep.
I mean, it was a mismatch as mismatch gets. I think Texas has gotten better, significantly better, perhaps, on both sides of the football since that initial game against Notre Dame last year. But, as you mentioned, 3.5 or even some 3s starting to pop up both here in Las Vegas and offshore. And to me, that has I'm not going to say it's definitely an overreaction, but it has the feel of a little bit of an overreaction by the betting markets to bad news for Notre Dame, but not a difference maker for that program.
All right, let's go rapid fire here. Key guys back at practice in NFL. The Giants, Victor Cruz, a non-factor since 2013 with multiple injuries. He's back practicing for the first time since August 9th.
Yeah, and he strained his groin back in the first or second week of training camp. He tried to come back once already. Now, for the Giants to be successful on offense this year, they need Victor Cruz to be not just productive, to be extremely productive, to be a good guy on the other side from Odell Beckham Jr. And over the last 2 seasons, he's done nothing. So far here in the preseason, the Giants' offense has looked awful. They need this guy back on the field and producing.
Tyler Eifert and Jordy Nelson back.
Yeah, Eifert, the quote I got was he's, quote, attempting to jog. There was talk he was going to make practice. No, he's still going to miss multiple regular season games, but at least he's back on the field. As for Jordy Nelson, I got an unofficial count from a beat reporter that said that he caught 15 passes from Aaron Rodgers and the other quarterbacks at the far end of the field while the rest of the team went through a special teams period. And though he never faced off against an opposing defender, he did appear to be running close to full speed in those drills.
Berryman back for the Ravens, missed all of last season, then partially torn ACL in June. They hope to have him week 1 against Buffalo.
Yeah, they hope to have him on Saturday in the third preseason game. Here's a quote from John Harbaugh. If he can play, believe me, I want him out there playing. He wants to be out there playing. If he can play, he will play. You know, this is a guy that's tore his PCL and his right knee on the very first day of training camp last year. Eventually, it sent him to injured reserve, and then he re-injured the knee back in June, and there were all kinds of issues. Harbaugh saying that he's still got to get back into football shape, but certainly a good sign for Baltimore that Chard Berryman back on the field, at least in some capacity practicing.
Honey Badger back for Arizona. He says he's about 80%. He's back from a torn ACL.
Yeah, and, you know, Honey Badger's, all reports, by the way, was his first practice back. He was a monster already. This is his second torn ACL. So, yeah, he has experience going through the process, but we can expect Arizona to really try to keep the reins pulled back on Tyrann Mathieu because he's so important to their defense. A guy who they're counting on to be both healthy and effective all year long as Arizona looks to get back to the Super Bowl.
Seattle probably out with Jimmy Graham. Will be without with Jimmy Graham the first couple games of the season, but they get Rawls back and they need him as Lynch retired.
Yeah, I mean, you know my opinion on running backs. You know, they're important for fantasy players. They're not important for point spreads. Thomas Rawls did get back into practice, but it's looking more and more like Jimmy Graham is not going to be ready for the start of the regular season, and he could easily miss the first couple of games.
Yes, the Colts sign Antonio Cromartie with Davis out with a bad ankle.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the story with Cromartie, okay? The Jets cut him. Nobody was interested in him. Nobody brought him into camp for an interview. Reports said he's battling lingering hip problems. He worked out on Monday in Indy, and that's his first reported visit from anywhere since he was released by the Jets back in February. And the fact that Indy offered him a contract on the spot, a one-year deal, tells us where the Colts are in terms of cornerbacks right now, particularly, as I mentioned, with Vontae Davis expected to miss into the regular season with that badly sprained ankle.
And Saturday, Gary Kubiak announces Trevor Siemian as the starter again.
Siemian's going to start. Here's the interesting thing. He didn't say that Sanchez was going to play number 2. He said he hadn't decided whether he was going to have Sanchez at number 2 or Paxton Lynch at number 2, which tells me that Mark Sanchez has just lost his job. But, of course, the Kubiak quote, I'm proud of all 3 of them. They've worked their tail off. They've all done good stuff. Obviously, we've got some mistakes we've got to get rid of, but we made some mistakes in the past, and you find a way to overcome them. That's part of football. And, you know, I mean, it's kind of kitschy, and it's kind of schmaltzy, and, I'm proud of you kids from Kubiak. But I honestly think that is the appropriate approach to take. Great job, guys. Great job. Pat everyone on the back, and then name someone who's not going to be an effective starter, because it doesn't matter who he goes with. There are going to be issues.
Hey, guys, for the full video, go to sbrpicks.com.
Hey, SportsBit viewers, I'm telling you, man, tune into these MLB Odds Couple shows. Mike Brenner and I both up big in August, and are we going to be able to do it again today on Tuesday, August 23rd? I don't know, but maybe. What do you think, Mike Brenner?
I don't see why not, Pistol Pete. We're
think
just
so?
plunging forward.
All right, tune into the show today, Tuesday, August 23rd, and find out for yourself.
That's right, and come on down after you're done with Teddy and Pauly and get a little bit of us.